Hey, Rob here, and this episode of the Cricket Table Podcast is sponsored by Audible. Today's guest, Lori London, is the author of the Tripi the Fly book series, but if you want to really get the full extent of Lori's talent, you need to check out the audiobook versions on Audible. Lori narrates the stories herself and performs the voice of Tripi. To check out those titles, as well as thousands of audiobooks, podcasts, and other spoken word entertainment, start your free 30-day trial over at audibletrial.com/Crooked Table. That's audibletrial.com/Crooked Table. Now, on with the show.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast, where we discuss the world of film from a fresh angle. And now your host, Robert Yannis Jr.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast. This is Rob. On this show, we democratize the film criticism conversation by bringing on fans and critics alike to dig into their personal connection to a current or classic release. This episode, we're going to be talking about the 1941 comedy Ball of Fire, directed by Howard Hawks, and I am honored to welcome back to the show, Lori London. Lori, welcome back to the Crooked Table Podcast.
Thank you, Robert. I'm so happy to be here. Hello, hello.
So tell people that didn't listen to our Christmas in Connecticut episode, another S.Z. Sakal film, incidentally, yes, which I think is how Ball of Fire came up in the first place. What have you been up to? You're the author of the Tripi the Fly children's book series, and I know you've been working on a lot of projects related to Tripi's adventures. Can you fill listeners in on what you've got going on?
I sure can. I've been working just pretty much day and night. Seriously, the other night I was sitting at the desk and I'm doing storyboards, and I don't really illustrate, but I do the best I can. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't eat. Gee whiz. So I've been like kind of I don't want to say a workaholic, but I'm very passionate about what I do, as you know. And Tripi right now, what's happening in his life is I have been working on a cartoon short for a while. This is a promo that will be resubmitted. There was some interest from Nickelodeon a little while back, and they wanted to see a cartoon short, though. Did I have one? No, So, here comes a year later. I meet all these wonderful people in California. My friend Alan, who's a sound designer, has won multiple Emmys, ACE Awards. I mean, these people are, they're veterans. The editor that's working on this has worked, Bobby Grant. He's worked for ABC and Warner Brothers years and years. So we've got some really great people. Our animator, graphic artist person, Ben Bowles, he just recently did something for Disney. So we've got some really cool, fun people. And the best part about these people is they are true creatives, in my estimation. They are all about getting the project the best that it can be. They all love Tripi, which is a plus, but that's what we've been doing. And in the promo, we're going to show Nickelodeon, and there's actually a couple other what I would call heavy hitters in that business and film and the cartoon world. I'm going to be sending this into Albie Hecht. Albie Hecht used to be CEO of Nick a couple years ago. I've emailed with him. Seems like a very nice man. So he said, send me the short. We'll see. He goes, once I look at it, maybe we can see where Tripi might live. Da-da-da-da. And just the offer of that, wow, is, really great. So there's that person as well. And then I was also introduced to Fred Siebert a couple years ago. And, I'm supposed to email him once a month and let him know how Tripi's doing. And I've been bad about that, but I do plan on sending him the short as well. I'm not sure if there's any interest there, but I'm still going to send it. And then we do have the interest from Nick. So this is great, and then all of a sudden God brings me all these super cool veteran, talented people to work on this, right? I mean, nobody can tell me this isn't meant to be. I just, and then I wrote him a theme song, which I was talking to you earlier, telling you I have written so much. Oh my gosh. I have rewritten and rewritten and rewritten. And I guess I really had no idea about how many rewrites there are. And now I'm really getting, not just my toes in the water, but my feet, my legs, everything, but I've rewritten a bunch. And then not too long ago, my friend Alan says to me, he goes, what if we put the song at the front and write the cartoon short according to what's going on in the song? And I'm like, and at first I thought, oh, that's great. And then my second thought was, oh my God, I have to write it again. You know, it's like, no. So, but what I've got here, I'm looking at it on the wall. I literally have pieces of paper with my cartoon crazy scratchings and my storyboards all over the wall in my room here. And, you know, this is a very different and super fun time though, Robert, it really is. So that's what I've been up to. And we're getting ready to start with what they call animatics and elements and all these terms I'm getting used to. What are those? You know, I can't even tell you. I shouldn't have brought it up. But anyway, it's just a process that you go through with the from when you get from storyboard. Now you're going to see, you know, you have what's called assets, which are, you know, things that the animator, graphic artist can use Tripi to make his mouth move and to animate him, you know, make his arms move, these type of things, and make him jump around or whatever he needs to do in what I've written here. So, yeah. So that's what I've been up to, just, you know, some stuff.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned it a little before we started the call, about how obviously with everything that's going on, you've been it's been really easy for you to focus in on kind of letting those creative juices flow. And it's fortuitous that you're working on something that involves animation, because like a lot of stuff in the industry has had to kind of hit an indefinite pause, except for animation. You know, animation's like one of the few projects that you could be worked on from beginning to end from, you know, remotely basically. Yeah.
And, you know, as I said earlier, I know this is one of those times where once we get past all of this, this would be one of those like, where were you when this hit, you know, that type of thing, or where were you when what was going on, you know? So yeah, this is one of those, and we will get through this. This too shall pass. I believe this. I know this to be true. It will. But for me, and I can only speak for myself, I am actually looking at this, and some people listening might find this hard to, and that's okay. That's okay, because everybody's experience is different, and everybody is reacting to this differently, and everybody, is what's the word I'm looking for? You know, they're entitled to how they feel, of course. But for me, and again, I can only speak for myself, this time has been a blessing. It's been a literal blessing. I thank God every day. When would I have the time to do all of this? You know, we were also talking, right? You know, think about life. It's so fast paced. It's this, it's that, and you're like, I don't have the time. Oh, I can't make the time. I'm just not going to have the time to do it. I don't know how I'm going to find the time. Right?
Well, exactly.
Here it is. Do what you want to do. Do what you need to do. Get stuff in order, get things done. I've done a lot of self, you know, I've gone deep, you know, and gotten through some wonderful things, some healing processes, which is great. And I'm just a happy person, and Tripi makes me so happy. And again, I'm very passionate about this little character who is so inspiring. Not just little kids, but adults. I mean, you know, he's a fly who can't fly. He has wings, okay, but they don't support him in what he should naturally be able to do. Does he curl up and die? Of course not. He's Tripi the fly, you know, but he has this unique ability to look at the bright side, and I believe his ability, and this really equates to us as humans too, I believe his ability is to do whatever you can to stay in that happy zone. I know we're humans, and I know, you know, don't, because everybody's done it. I've done it, you know, I don't want to go too deep here, but like, if we give ourselves an excuse to feel bad, then we're going to feel bad. We're going to feel bad. And how does that feel? No, it doesn't feel good, you know? So Tripi has this unique ability to look at the bright side. And it's not to say that he has never gotten sad. You have seen his first and second book. That's where we met at the Barnes & Noble in Florida. Right. But, you know, in the first book, yes, they are tears of, I can't, you know, he had just tried to fly and he couldn't, but he shakes it off. and there's the message, right? And in the second one, he cries again, but this time it's a joyful cry because he realizes that he understood French from the lady who opened the airplane door when he arrived in Paris. So, and now he's in England and, still trying to work on that. Right now, again, my focus is this short. This is the big thing that is pulling me right now. And so this is what I am, I'm paying attention, and it's funny, I say, oh yeah, we all have antennas. Well, maybe we don't see our antennas, but that's our spiritual self. Like if something doesn't feel right, well, guess what? Turn the other way, then go this way, because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And that's not who you're supposed to be hanging out with, or that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, we all have internal antennas, I think, and do we pay attention to them? Well, I try to, and Tripi, he teaches me, quite frankly.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think there's a lot kind of wrapped up in the character. I mean, you mentioned about sort of his. I think it's inspirational and I touched on this a little bit in our last conversation, but for people that didn't hear that one yet, shame on you. But also, it's kind of inspirational as far as getting young children and interested in travel. It has the whole sort of metaphor of someone that's differently abled and trying to your response to that situation. And I'm someone who's dealt with anxiety and sort of depression, and so having that sort of can-do attitude, I have my wife that helped me kind of focus on being more solution driven instead of like kind of wallowing in the difficulties and the obstacles. And right now, I think it's a lot of them right now, and a lot of people are, as you mentioned, really dealing with personal struggles with their their work, their family life, and things like that.
Everything.
Yeah, it's a mess, and so I think it's important that you're putting something positive out there. And also, I feel like right now might be the best time to have something creative to shop out there too, like just on like from a marketplace perspective.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, we're recording this days after HBO Max came out. I feel like every other week there's a new streaming service or network or web thing or on, like there's infinite places to shop this kind of material to. So I think that the market is really kind of ripe for something like this.
I just thought of the word ripe. Yes, exactly. Tripi is ripe for what's going on. And my sister, who, she doesn't do anything with any of this, but she even said to me, she goes, it just seems like this is the right time for Tripi. And I said, yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's everything happens for a reason. And it's very true. But it's funny. My friend Alan, who's a sound engineer, sound designer, big difference. He said to me, he goes, I kind of look at Tripi. He just said this to me the other day. He goes, I kind of look at him as kind of a Zen character in a way. He said, because, he's able to, kind of tune in and tune out other things and basically align himself to his joy factor, which is kind of what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And, and through his daydreaming, which is the best part of him, that's the fun part to me. There is a part in this song. I got to tell you about the song. My friend Galen Breen down in Nashville. Hey, Galen, if you're listening, you better be listening. He's a wonderful producer. He plays many different instruments. So went down there one day, recorded it. Boom, first thing out of the park, and which was great. But there is a part. I was singing in like two different octaves. I'm singing in the voice of Tripi. I'm also singing in the voice of the great book. So this was a wild. I've never done anything like this. I've never written. Actually, this is the second song, but I've never, gone in to record for children's material. I've never written children's material.
Right.
I really, really was very adamant about wanting to introduce some jazz type feel, some notes, some riffs with the guitar, whatever you want to call it. But when I grew up looking at certain, like Bugs Bunny, for instance, I mean, there was all sorts of music. There was all sorts of genres of music. There was even orchestrated music, for God's sakes. I think even once, wasn't he like a conductor of an orchestra? I mean, so kids were exposed to like so many different modes of and genres of music. And I loved it as a kid. And I thought, what do we have today? I don't watch cartoons. Let me just say that up front. I don't watch cartoons. I don't. If I do watch one, it's an older one. But I thought when I write this song, I want to have some type of a jazzy type influence, and it does, and it's great, and it's up tempo, and but what I was getting to, there is a part where we doubled over my voice, and it's almost like a jungle beat, and I repeat the words, Trippy, Trippy, Trippy the fly, Trippy, Trippy, Trippy. And then it goes, Trippy the fly, he's our guy, he don't know why, but he can't fly. Oh, Trippy, Trippy, Trippy the fly. Anyway, and in those repeats, this is when we're able to show some of the daydreaming that he does. Mm-hmm. And we've got some really cute, I think they're cute. So not only the places that he wants to go are 3D here in the real world, yeah, but as we know, Trippy messes with quantum physics. He's very smart. In the France book, we've got him doing equations on a board with a rocket trajectory. I don't know if you remember that page. Mm-hmm. Yep. And my illustrator, Heather Bonstetter, God love her. Hi, Heather. You better be listening. Anyway, she knows me. I'm messing with her. But anyway, I'll send her a thing. But anyway, she did something that I didn't know she was going to do. And it would always be up to me if I wanted it on there or not. But I love that about her because I like to give her more free reign with stuff, but because that's the collaboration, right? You know, exactly. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know your, it's my project, but I want to know your stuff. Yeah. So she sends back the first page and there's 3 Trippies on there. And I'm like, how come there's 3 of them? Like, I didn't catch it. I didn't get it. And she goes, well, because the equations, and she goes, don't worry. She goes, right away, she knew what I was going to ask. She goes, it's public domain. I checked, like, okay. But she says the equations on the board are actually quantum physics equations. They are the real deal. And so she said in that page, it's a joke kind of between us in a way, but at the same time, I think this is why Alan, my sound friend, he calls him Zen, right? Because apparently he's already figured out quantum physics because there's 3 of them working on the board. He's in 3 different dimensions working. I mean, you can take this as deep as you want to or as light as you want to. Kids aren't going to catch any of this more than likely unless they're just super, super duper brainiacs and they're into that. And that's possible too. It's possible that some of the kids reading are, of course. But I like that about him. I like that he's a little on the edge, on the fringe, whatever you want to call it. But at his core, he's very sweet and he's very kind and he's got a big, big heart. And that's more important to me than any of this other stuff. But yeah, so the song got written. And the song got written for a reason. See, I just wanted to write him a theme song. That had nothing to do with this cartoon short because we were already working on the short. I'd already rewritten it. But do you see how things happen? Mm-hmm. It's amazing. It's amazing. I just look at everything. It seems so gifted. I just feel blessed, very much so.
Yeah, it's cool when things align like that. And like we said, I think it does feel like things are sort of lining up for something big to happen with Trippy. In general.
Thanks for saying that. I feel that too. Thank you.
So you'll definitely have to keep us. We'll have to have you on again, maybe later this year to touch base and see, like, okay, now status update. What's Trippy up to?
I would love to. I would love to. And can Trippy say hi to your audience? Real quick?
Course, Trippy. Please go join us.
Here's Trippy the Fly. Hi, audience.
Hey, Trippy.
Hope you're enjoying the show. Thank you, Robert. You're the best.
Thanks, you too, Trippy.
Okay, go sit down. Go play with Katie Scarlett. Okay. All right, he's gone now. I have voices. Have voices in my head. Oh, they're all kind. They're all kind.
Yeah, okay. I totally understand. I'm big into voices and animation and like voice acting. I haven't actually done that myself, but it's always been something I've been really interested in.
Oh, so you should do it. I
should. I don't know. I wouldn't know where to get started. Is my thing.
Well, can I share some? See, this is happening for a reason. May I share something with you? If this can help anybody listening, or you, Robert?
Sure.
I did a voiceover. I went into my friend Tom Jankowskis's. I went into his studio. My sound engineer back in Illinois. And I've worked with him on many projects. He's really wonderful. Done a lot of music CDs with him. Great guy. But anyway, we were in the studio. What was I getting? Oh, yes. And I said, I've always, I feel like I got voices in my head. And of course, I'm sure he probably laughed at me. And I just thought, I want to do a voiceover CD. But I didn't even, I went in and did it, So I thought, well, what can I do? Okay, I want character voices. What do I like to do? That's very important. What voices do you like to do? What have been some of the ones that have been in your head for a while? I started out actually doing like bird noises. My mother, when I was a little kid, I remember this. She taught me how to make a noise like a crow. And from this day on, if there's a crow or a raven out there talking, I talk back to them. And then sometimes they fly off like, you're not a raven. We know you're a fake, But anyway, that's where it started with me. So with this CD, what I did, I thought, okay, to make this fun, I didn't plan on doing anything with it. I just wanted to exercise my voice. I went into the studio. I picked from about maybe 5 or 6 different movies, lines in the movies that I liked. And a lot of these lines, they didn't necessarily were infamous, or one of them was, but, one had an English, I was portraying an English queen, and it was from a Drew Barrymore movie. It's kind of like a Cinderella.
Yeah, Ever After.
Ever After, yeah.
Yeah, my wife loves that movie.
So I do. Oh, yes, isn't it great?
It's really good.
I got to meet your wife again. Yeah, tell her I said hi. But anyway, I play, it's the scene where the mother queen says to the king, about the son, she's like, I forget the line. I wish I could think of it because I'd do it right now. But anyway, so I did that. I took another one. She was in this TV show, is it Melanie Lynn? No. Oh, I can't say her name. But anyway, she was in 2.5 Men, and she was the crazy neighbor.
Yeah, Melanie Linsky. I think you're right.
It is Melanie Linsky. Okay, I was losing my... Okay, so she's in that movie, in that Drew Barrymore movie. If you recall, she is the nicer of the 2 crappy sisters, right? Okay, the mean sisters. And I do her voice because it was very different and very sweet, and she was, she was fixing her back after she had been, smacked. And I just picked different things. And then one of them I picked was Scarlett O'Hara, which was fun. And she's telling Rhett, I will never divorce you, never, And I don't know, this is a made-for-TV movie that they did like 20, 30 years later, probably more than that, probably 30, 40 years later. And it's called Scarlett. And basically the writer, I don't want to get too off here, but basically the writer took the next day. Okay, so Rhett says, frankly, Scarlett, I don't, forget you. What would have happened the next day? So that writer took the premise of that, which I thought was so incredibly like, wow, how cool. And they took her life. She went to Ireland. She met her people. She gets back together with Rhett, and then they bust up, and then a bunch of stuff goes on, but it's just called Scarlett, and it's a mini-series. So I did a line from that. And so I just did things that made me happy. That I thought I sounded kind of good on. I did a French woman announcing the arrival of Air France flight, whatever. I just did a bunch of different things. And when I got out of the studio, I was happy with what I heard. And then I also heard some things where it was like, okay, that sounded, I did a Irish, it sounded more like a leprechaun instead of an actual Irish person talking, so that was a little bit too much. So I learned from that little disc that I did. And it's just like I was talking earlier about getting your toes in the water or whatever. Just try it. Just do it. If you have a thing for that, you should just try it. It'd be cool. You have fun for sure. Just try it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Now is a good time, as good a time as any to try and throw things out there anyway, as we were saying. So
absolutely.
I'll keep that in mind. I feel like we should move into the movie.
I know. We're getting into
we always get it. This has happened last time too. We got into like a whole side conversation. We're like, oh yeah, wait, a movie to talk about.
This is the Samuel Goldwyn, Howard Hawks directed movie. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
So we're
Ball
here,
of Fire, one of my favorites.
This episode to talk about Ball of Fire from 1941. So let's listen to a little bit of the trailer right now.
Great educators throughout the world have been forced to streamline our dictionaries and encyclopedias because of the demands of modern slang. Selected to perform this Herculean task of rewriting these ponderous volumes of knowledge is Professor Bertram Potts, who knows nothing about the subject of slang.
This is research, isn't it?
Yes.
Certainly. Who was that guy learned so much from watching an apple drop?
Isaac Newton, the law of gravity.
Yeah, that's him. And I want you to look at me as another apple, Professor Potts. Just another apple. Yeah, that's perfect.
What are you doing?
I'm going to show you what Yum Yum is. Here's Yum. Here's the other Yum. And here's Yum Yum.
That was a little bit of the trailer for Ball of Fire from 1941, directed by Howard Hawks. So, Lori, what is it about this movie that made this, this the kind of the go-to one that even in the middle of our last conversation, you were like, next time, Ball of Fire. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, Ball of Fire. Because I was kind of sorry I didn't pick Ball of Fire because, remember? I was like,
I do remember.
Connecticut. And I was like, oh no, I should have picked Ball of Fire. Yeah, this movie, I love movies that are clever with words. Like, I love screwball comedies, for starters. I love the black and white screwball comedies because I guess what it is, I like to laugh and I like to be surprised. And if you notice in this movie too, like a lot of other screwball type comedies, a lot of things are said tongue in cheek or under the breath. And if you don't like, what did he just say? Oh my God, and then you back it up. So, and then you get a double laugh out of it. So, I just find the writing on this very clever, so clever. And a great marriage to this wonderful script, which I believe the original story was Billy Wilder, who, he's done so much, and another gentleman by the name of Thomas Monroe. Yeah. Just very smart, And then that coupled with these seasoned, veteran, iconic actors that we've seen in other movies. A perfect example, the one who, Henry Travers, he's the professor who does like the Amazon and the tributaries, and he does all of that. That's his that's what he studies. And he was the angel in what's the movie everybody watches every Christmas?
Oh, It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, he was.
It's a Wonderful Life.
I was like, he looks so familiar. That's why. Yeah, I didn't even realize that.
Yes. That's Henry Travers. And then of course, S.Z. Sakal. I don't know how you pronounce his name.
Well, it's the combination of S and Z that actually trips me up. I'm like, S-Z, it's like those shouldn't be next to each other. But
together.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It messes with my head. I feel like I'm saying it wrong, even though clearly it's an S and a Z. But yes.
And his name is like Sak. He's Hungarian, I believe.
Yeah.
But these are great actors. These are great character actors. And I'm sure, I have no doubt, if I could be, the fly on the wall, no pun intended, but I mean, to time travel back, I bet they had so much fun with this movie because these are professionals. And it just seems like they made it easy. It just looked easy. The whole thing flowed, and to flow and be fast paced like that with all that the words and the slang, and you know what else? And I've loved this movie for years, but right now in writing Tripi Loves London, because he took the channel from Paris to England. I am working, as you know, my stories they're called poetry and prose, so they go in and out of rhyming. They always end on the rhyme, but I'm working with all of the British slang right now. Oh my God, is that fun?
Oh, that's so cool.
I guess I love words, and I love cleverness for sure. It definitely has always been appealing to me, and this movie's loaded with it. It's loaded with. It's also loaded with a bunch of other stuff too, little innuendos and different things. And you get a cameo of Gene Krupa, one of the best drummers of our time. Incredible. With the Gene Krupa Orchestra. I mean, yeah.
No, a lot of what you said reminds me of Christmas in Connecticut. I mean, obviously we have the Barbara Stanwyck connection and
I love her.
S.Z. Sakal. See, I had to slow it down in the beginning. But that's similar, sort of subtle humor, that fast-paced wit. The fact that both of them, this is a thing, I hadn't seen either of these movies until you brought them to the table. But going back, watching them now in 2020, I'm always like, let's see how this movie has aged from the 40s. And both of these movies aged pretty well. And as has most of Billy Wilder's stuff. So I'm not surprised to find that he was involved in the writing of this one.
Well, I honestly, I didn't know that he was and I was like, I need to know who wrote this because it's so clever. It's just so clever. And I want to talk a little bit about Gary Cooper himself. I find there's been a few actors, that you look back. He had a way about him where I know you're going to know what I'm talking about. Like, it's probably a better way to say this, but the way I can say it is he wouldn't have to say too much to get across. You knew exactly what he's thinking or what's going on the screen. He just had a really kind of a unique ability. He's one of those type of actors, and I'm probably not saying it right.
Yeah, he's very understated in the way that, in his presence on screen. And he very physical actor too, like the way that Professor Potts, it's like just gets uneasy around Sugar Puss and just all of that, like that whole all of they have great chemistry in this movie.
Yes,
and that makes all the difference in the world. You mentioned the language. We should just throw out there for people that haven't seen this movie. That's centers on 8 scholars working on an encyclopedia, and the nightclub singer that throws their whole world off balance, essentially. And right from the beginning, like you could tell that the movie was, as you said, very tongue in cheek. You have Miss Totten coming in there, and she's explaining like, my father just wanted this because his name wasn't in the Encyclopedia Britannica. David S. Totten, the inventor of the electric toaster. And I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny too, because like Thomas Alva Edison, he got like a bunch of pages, and then they mentioned another one that got several, and
Alexander Graham Bell, I think it is. Yeah.
Yes. He got more pages, and and so here they are. They're in this. One of them referred to it as a mausoleum, and then you've got Mrs. Bragg, and I love the scene where Barbara Stanwyck. Well, maybe we should back up a little bit. So he goes. What happens? Oh, the actor I know, the milkman. That's what kind of started this all off. They're there doing their daily thing, and the milkman comes in. And he comes out with like a plethora of like all these different words, and they're all kind of like looking at him like, what did he say? It's like, and that's when Gary Cooper realizes, I just spent all this time on a section on slang. I just embalmed a few dead words. This man talked a living language. And then he's like, being in here, cut off from the world, I've lost it, basically. So this is when he makes the decision to go out into the public venues, the lives, the theater, the arts, the slums. That was another one. He's like, I'm going to go to the slums. Like, oh my God.
The appreciation of language in that scene, and the scene when he's realizing just how out of touch he really is, and the scenes immediately following it. I loved all of that. As an English major and a writer and a creative, I was just like, this is so cool.
English major. Oh, wow. So this really...
It spoke to him going around and just jotting down what everybody was saying.
And in his innocence, too, and in the character that he portrays is super cute, too, because, like, the two girls on the trolley car, they're, like, looking at him like, get away from us. What do you want?
Yeah, exactly.
And I love the kid who's selling the newspapers, and he's like, what's he say? He goes, blitz it, mister, blitz it. Like, get out of here, blitz it. And he's like, well, young man, I'd like for you to, he's like, what are you, Father Flanagan?
Yeah.
He says, you're giving me the memes. And then he's still writing. He's going, you're giving me the screaming memes. Now, we've heard that. I think I may have even used that not too long ago. And then another one when he goes into the pool hall. Slap happy, and oh God, there was another one,
and it just cuts back and forth between him like leaning over, and then like the notepad with all these different that was great.
Salad sender, loserilla. I don't know if that's probably not even a word, but are any of these? But some of these are actual. I did do some due diligence, and a lot of these, more than not, are actual real slang words. A couple I found that I couldn't find anything on there, just they're just, made up or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I had a feeling that might have been the case. This is 1940. It was a little time capsule of 1940s slang too that I also enjoyed.
It is. Yeah. I was reading on that as well, and I didn't know that. Some of the words came from the 20s as well. But so then what does he do next? Let's see. He goes to the Gene Krupa Orchestra is playing, and he goes into the live venues, and it was so cute the way he wanted to join in after Gene Krupa comes down and he's doing that matchstick boogie on the table, and they're all gathered around, and he's like, boogie, he's so just, he doesn't know. Well, socially, it's almost like he hasn't been socialized, even though he's graduated from Princeton and, that at all these places, and he, Rockefeller knows him, and, all these prestigious, but yet in the real life, feeling emotional world, he's lost, and I love the character that he portrayed, Gary Cooper portrayed. And so then Barbara Stanwyck comes out, and that song that she sang, I had looked this up a long time ago. I thought that kind of sounds like her voice, like that could be her singing. And I think she danced, but I didn't know if she sang. And then I looked it up, and apparently it is someone else singing. But boy, it sounds like it could be her. Mm-hmm. And being a singer myself, that's why I was listening. I'm like, it kind of sounds like it could be her. But that song, Drum Boogie, I love that song. Drum Boogie, drum. And then the band goes, da-da-da-da-da-da. It's just such a hopping scene, you know? And one of my I got so many favorite scenes, but one of my first favorite scenes, it is the first scene between him and her, between Gary Cooper's character and Barbara Stanwyck, isn't mistaken identity always fun, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the two thugs, Dan Duryea, and I don't know the other guy's name, darn it. Dan Duryea, he was an actor, film, he did dance as well. He's been in tons of things. But anyway, he plays one of the henchmen. But when they put her in the room, and then the door, Gary Cooper knocks on the door, she thinks he's the feds, the FBI wanting to interview her about this man that got killed. And so when she says to him, one of my favorite lines in the whole movie, shove in your clutch. Shove in your clutch. I mean, and basically what that, is that a real phrase? Maybe it is from back then. I don't know. But shove in your clutch is like basically back up, knock it off, whatever.
Right. But shove it up your, whatever.
Yeah. Shove in your clutch, like back it, put your clutch, downshift, go back, whatever, revert, whatever. And then the other thing she says to him in that same line, in that same encounter, is she says something about his gums, like to stop slapping his gums. Like, in other words, stop trying to talk to me because I'm not talking to you.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes is when they first meet. That's very cute.
Yeah.
And then she's a mobster's girlfriend, and her boyfriend is, what's his name? Dana Andrews. And he's
Joe Lilac. Such a movie gangster name. Perfect movie gangster name. But yeah, so then we're all of a sudden in this like crime movie out of nowhere, I guess. Yeah,
it switches.
Yeah. And like I said, I hadn't seen this until today watching it for this episode. So, and I didn't really read anything about it. I prefer most of the time to go into movies completely blind anyway. Okay, so that you're just along for the ride, and you don't even know what genre you're really watching. Right. And especially nowadays, in modern movies, they give away so much in trailers that if it's something I know I want to see, I
agree.
I'll just completely be like, oh, yep, I'm going to watch that. I don't need to see the trailer. I'll wait till it comes out. But yeah, so then we're in a crime movie, and she ends the scene in the car with her in there.
Yeah, she's implicated. She didn't do anything.
Right.
And but she doesn't believe that the boyfriend is capable of murder.
Right.
But she's wrong. We find that out later. Yeah.
He's scary. He's scary, Joe Lilac.
Yeah, he's kind of scary, Joe Lilac. And I love the scene where the thugs are talking to her, and she's like, Joe Lilac involved in a murder? She goes, I don't believe it. She goes, what? How does this, Pastrami, that was his name. Right. What a great thug name, Pastrami. She says, no, Pastrami, that doesn't, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, why am I implicated? And she says, remember when you bought Joe a dozen pink night shirts or whatever? And then you found out that the only color Joe Lilac wears is lilac. And she's like, oh yeah. Like stuff like
well, there's
that.
a scene later on too, where they're like trying it on different, like on Joe Lilac and different thugs. And one of his lackeys takes credit and like, yeah, this is mine. I like wearing it 3 sizes too big or whatever.
Yeah. And his arms are hanging down. He's a little short dude. And arms are, and that's when the police were trying to nail him for the murder. And he walks at that point. He does walk. Only later, of course, we know what happened. But so then another scene I love is back in the I keep calling it the mausoleum, but back in the
ultimate bachelor pad, I guess, because all of them except for one
right?
One's a widower, and then
I call it a mansion. Yeah. But when she starts to, when you see the seven, they call them the seven dwarfs.
Right.
When I see them start to like liven up and lighten up, it's adorable.
Yeah,
isn't it? I mean, it's so sweet. And each character, even the most quietest, soft-spoken one of them all, which is, is it Tully Marshall? No. I'll have to look up the name. But anyway, you know the character I'm talking about. He talks like this, and he was the only one that was ever married out of all of them, and he's the widow. And he's just very soft-spoken, and, on their honeymoon night, they painted 8 watercolors, on their honeymoon instead of honeymooning, which was fun. But anyway, that character.
I think is it Richard Hayden? Is it that the actor?
It might be Richard Hayden.
I'm trying
That might be. I'm looking.
Yeah, because his voice also was familiar too. And I'm looking in here, and he was like the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland, the Disney one, and things like that. I'm like, no wonder he sounded so familiir to me every time he was talking. Yeah,
that is Richard Hayden, and you are correct. Yeah, a very distinct sounding voice. And when I first heard the voice, I thought, was he on Bullwinkle? I mean, it almost sounds like one of the voices from the Bullwinkle cartoon, but I'll have to read more up on him. But yeah, he's great. He's great in that role. But when you see all of them kind of come to life, she brought this zest for life and living into the tired, sad, dusty existence that they've been living for the last, 8 years or whatever. And the scene where the one guy comes in, he goes, well, they were out of Beat Me Daddy 8 to the bar, but I got, there's other two, and they put the music on, and they're doing a rumba or whatever, the dance. And then Bragg comes in and tells the Gary Cooper character, it's either her or me. Women like that have brought down countries.
I wrote that line down too. That kind of woman, she's the kind of woman that makes whole civilizations topple.
Yes.
Like a Helen of Troy type, basically, I guess is what you said.
Yes, basically, yeah. She's bad news, in Miss Bragg's estimation. So anyway, I love that scene too, where they're trying to dance and they've got the wrong dance to the wrong song. And then when she comes in, it's very fun, very fun. And then what you find out, and I think this is, again, in the writing, so clever, right? Up until that point, I think when he meets her backstage, his interest is more in what's coming out of her mouth, right? But then all of a sudden it takes a turn. And the first time I saw this movie, they got me because I wasn't really expecting, you figure maybe, but nothing led you to think that he was interested in her until they go into the parlor area there and he's telling her that she has to leave, because she's no longer has a sore throat and she needs to leave. And then he says, I too was keenly aware of your presence, and it's something so minuscule like he saw the light on her hair through the window. That like got him all crazy. So it's just sweet, and very cute, and
I was gonna say the thing that I love is that the middle of this movie, like it's sort of like Act 2 is very much a hangout movie in a way. You're just kind of hanging out with. This woman and these guys just as you mentioned the dancing scene already, the breakdown when she's in the like kind of round table discussion and she's talking with all the other like subjects, I guess that he's authorities he's collected, and they're talking about what corny means and like breaking that like that again as an English person I was like, this is so cool. But then she says, so she says something like, I stand in the, I get some sun in my hair and you have to water your neck, that kind of thing. And I thought that was, super cute. All of that was adorable. And because he is so inexperienced romantically, he's just like, he doesn't know where to look. And
And now, I don't know if you caught this, but if you didn't, go back and look at it because it's hysterical. I think it's hysterical. There is a scene, in that scene we're talking about, where she shows him what yum yum means. Mm-hmm. Basically, she kisses him. And he's just like, oh my God, what's that? It's probably his first kiss, right? He's like almost 30, he's probably 30-something years old. But I love in the latter part of it, it's getting towards the end, and then they go outside, and the taxi has arrived for her, and Miss Bragg is thinking that she's going to leave, right? But right before that, he says to her, before you leave, would you, and he kind of says it out of half of his mouth, would you yum yum me like that? But when she goes to yum yum him the second time, whatever, if you notice, when she reaches for him, he ducks her. He steps back like she's scaring him, or like she's kind of scary, her,
right.
her forwardness. But again, he's totally in character. Well, of course he has to be, right? But I mean, he's impressive. He always has been to me with regards to acting, and he's a very, very good actor. But and then of course we know that the taxi comes, and he tells Miss Bragg to take the taxi, basically.
He's like, yeah, you can have it. It's all yours.
Well, now he's under her spell. For
exactly.
Sure, no question. Yeah.
And obviously Barbara Stanwyck is amazing in this. She was nominated for Best Actress for the Oscars for this movie. And she brings that same kind of presence that she had in Christmas in Connecticut, where you're like, well, yeah, of course he's falling in love with her. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's exactly.
she has such a fun energy in this movie, the way she just enters a room and just like, oh, see you later, kids. Like, she's just like,
kids. Yeah, everybody's a kid.
Yeah, all these people that are like,
kids. Yeah, I love it.
And the movie, what I think makes her character so compelling is that she's very clearly sort of playing Potts until kind of almost the very end of the movie. But she's still sort of sympathetic. Like, she doesn't want to cross a certain line. She's trying to get herself out of a bad situation, but she doesn't want to
she's not a mean person. She's not vindictive or mean. No, that's not her thing. She's just a girl who was, they allude to that, she was born on the wrong side of the tracks, basically. And she came up the way she knew how. And, later in the movie, as we know, she calls herself a tramp. But,
right. Which I'm always kind of taken aback with, especially Billy Wilder's stuff, how forward he is about some of these concepts. Like the fact that they dropped that word in this movie, I was just like, I was really surprised. But so she finds herself midway through the movie that, they have the yum yum scene. And then I feel like there's a little bit. Yeah, I feel like there's a little bit. I feel like there's almost a little bit of a time jump in between those two scenes. I don't know how much of a time jump, but I feel like all of a sudden he's ready to propose. I guess I don't know if it's supposed to be the next day or like a week later or what, but
I felt like it was the next day, because if you remember when he goes to bring her the breakfast in the morning, okay, she doesn't know. She just thinks he got her a present until she sees the ring. He makes a comment, which it's like this one line, just kind of, for me, it tied the whole thing in, because I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. Like, was there a time jump? He says to her, well, when one naturally declares one's feelings, that's like the natural next step is the ring in marriage. So it's like, this movie might have been longer. You never know. And maybe they had to cut it down, and maybe that, So at that point, I think now she's not in love with him yet, but I think now she feels guilty, obviously. So now she's realizing, I didn't mean for all this to happen. So now, she's getting in touch with her hometown girl, feelings, which maybe she hasn't, been in touch with for a while. So, and then what happens then? I think that he ends up talking to the dad, which is actually Daddy.
Awkward.
That's her boyfriend, Dana Andrews. And then let's see. The scene, they all get in the car. They all pile in the car to go to Rancocas or wherever they're going to get married at. And they get pulled over. Or no, they're going across the bridge.
Yeah.
They get a car. That's right. He crashes.
Yep.
I forgot. That's
Yep.
right. Gorgakoff, the mathematician, and the policeman asked for his license, and he's like, 1904. You should have had this renewed 20 times by now. And he goes, and then he walks away and he turns to the other guy and he goes, what? He's talking. He goes, I drove with that license. I drove Teddy Roosevelt, with that license or something like that. He said it was very funny.
Yeah.
So then they have to actually stay at the motel, and that's where it gets interesting because that's where I think. What do you think? I think that's where I don't know. I'm not sure exactly where maybe she realizes that she loves him.
I think
might be.
Yeah,
it might be later in the room.
I think it's in the
room.
room. I think it's definitely in the room. First of all, I think he starts to kind of break her down with the ring with the Richard III reference in it, which I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. I was like, "Aw."
Wouldn't any woman,
right?
any woman, man, want to hear that?
That's super sweet.
It's so touching. Something about this ring encompass. Circle encompass thy finger the way it encompassed my heart because both are thine.
Right,
something
exactly,
like
something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
And then you mentioned the phone call with Joe Lilac, and even the fact that he's sort of masquerading as her air quotes daddy, and the way that comes back later, even that is sort of a double entendre that felt sort of like for the 40s.
Yes,
I was like, wow, okay, we're doing that.
Daddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which, and again, that also, that even that dynamic, that gag with the daddy thing, I think is also very telling of the nature of their relationship and how he's got all the power and she's just kind of he's just marrying her because that way she can't testify. And the whole thing is she's just consistently being used. And I think it's that, as to bring it back around, we get the whole Genevieve story, and song in the tap room. And then Potts goes into the wrong bungalow, I guess it is.
Right.
And
the number changes.
Which is a classic. Yeah. I wonder, when I see old movies like this, I always wonder, is that where that thing came from? Because you see that a million times since, where the 9 slips to the 6 or whatever, and they end up in the wrong place. You always wonder, how far back does that particular thing go? Yeah.
Right. Where did that start? I know. I love the trivia and the history of things. Don't you? Yeah.
So
very cool.
And I love the cinematography and that, the way us, the audience, can see her eyes in that scene. Because I was even thinking that I'm like, they're not really going to have him confess his feelings unwittingly to her, and then have us not see her reaction. That they can't do that to us. That's don't mess with me.
Don't do it.
And so when we do see her eyes, kind of that close up, I thought that's the moment, I think, where she definitely comes around and starts to be like, okay, now I need to figure out how to get out of this situation with him and get rid of this Lilac guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is it's very beautiful because this is we all have damages, right? But this character has a she's been damaged and she's not been treated right. And like you said, she is being used. And I even had the thought, now this is a little darker thought, but I thought, you never know, this Joe Lilac character, he might marry her and then have her taken care of. You know what I'm saying? But that way there's no witnesses, because that's what gangsters do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, so he's very questionable for sure. But, anyway, I believe that's probably the moment. Yeah. She had to face herself, and also her trying to write down all her excuses. Didn't you think that was great? Mm-hmm. And she couldn't write anything. And then when she shows it to him, when he comes, oh, well, that's right. He goes back in, he meets Daddy.
Yeah. Gets punched out.
They come to gets punched. I think he got punched because if you remember, Dana Andrews says to him, oh, I thought you'd look like these other, 7 dwarves or these squirrely, older gentlemen.
Yeah, not Gary Cooper. Oh, you'd be like an 80-year-old man.
Not a good-looking Gary Cooper,
right.
Tall. Yeah, exactly. So then he became jealous, but only because of an ownership feeling. It's not that he really has feelings for Barbara Stanwyck. He definitely does not. But So then Cooper goes back and we like have the scene that you just said, and he, but then he says to her, she goes, well, here's all my excuses, and she turns and the paper's empty, and he goes, what would you call it? The words of what would you call it? And then he shuts the door and she says, tramp, you know?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Like, oh, man.
That's a heartfelt moment.
Because that took it to a totally different level, feel from like the entire movie, like how it had been, even with the innuendo stuff. I mean, this is like,
right.
you know, like, yeah.
Well, it's a 1941 screwball comedy, and then all of a sudden it got really real in that one, with that one word.
In that one word.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
And well, that's the whole thing. The whole movie's about the power of words, right?
Words,
slang and like how everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like not to. I want to rewind to the milkman. Mm-hmm. When he comes in and he's talking about, I need a little scratch, you know, a little dough, you know, because I'm gonna take the referencing to women was really not nice, but no. take the what do you call her?
You call her a mouse, I think, at one point.
A mouse, you know, take the mouse for a little hooch, for a little rum boogie,
a little hoy toy toy,
and then a hoy toy toy. And you know what? I looked up hoy toy toy.
Oh, boy.
They are using it in a totally different context. Hoy toy toy, I actually looked it up. And of course I should have had this on here already before I'm stalling here. But hoy toy toy does not mean what they are insinuating. It's not that. Because if you know later he goes, and if you don't know what hoy toy toy, go ask your dads, you know. That is not what it means. Here it is right here. It says, oh, you know what? I'm wrong. You can edit this part out if you want. It's not hoy toy toy. It came up toy toy toy. T-O-I. Okay. That's different. Okay. And that's something that has to do with something not even close. Never mind. Okay. Well, anyway, so where are we? So Gary Cooper leaves the residence. He goes back. He gets hit by the boyfriend, the gangster. And then
she says tramp, and then they're back at work. And one of them
right.
ends up with the Joe Lilac ring.
Yes, that's right. The Richard Hayden character, the very soft-spoken one, says, you know, I found her and she was crying and she wanted me to give this to you. And he was like, I don't want it, whatever. And then Gurdikoff, right? Freud, that guy, he comes up and he says, like, oh, very interesting. And then like, what are you talking about? You know, and he's like, this is not the ring you gave her. She gave you back his ring. He goes, that means a lot, you know. And so then, you know, Gurdikoff is telling him basically subconsciously or psychologically, she doesn't want him. She wants you. Otherwise, she wouldn't have gave back his ring. She kept your ring.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, which that was kind of cool, too.
It is.
Then we got like, you think the movie is getting, I don't know about you, but like, I'm thinking the movie at this point, the first time I saw it, I'm like, okay, so it's going to wrap up. I wonder how they're going to like get them together. They got to get them together. And then there's this whole other heist, like where they kidnap everybody. I mean, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, Pastrami comes in.
I mean, yes, Pastrami and the other guy. And they hold them for ransom, basically. And the ransom is Barbara Streisand, oh my God, Barbara Stanwyck not wanting to say I do, right? Because now she realizes she loves Gary Cooper, and she's not going to do it.
And that emboldens Potts to figure out a way to get them out of the situation and all that. And then, of course, you end up with the whole sort of Damocles thing with the portrait. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah, they brought in history. They brought in, you know, and I guess I relate
Combined
to this
powers.
too. And I love this movie. Like I said, I've been loving this movie for years, even way before I started writing on the children's book series. But there's some similarities with this movie, how they bring in history and and the other thing where they come to see her, where they come to see her at the place. This is right before they get in the car to go get married. He brings the two thugs come over, and as they're leaving, they talk to her, and as they're leaving, they say, I'll get you on the Amici. And she goes, what's that? And he goes, the telephone. And she goes, oh, on account of Amici invented the telephone? And they go like, no, because of the movie. And that movie, it was Don Amici played that part, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Don Amici, who he's been around he's gone now, but been around forever, very, very well-known actor. But I thought that was kind of cool that they threw that in, because that movie, I believe, was out when this movie either came out or was around the same time. And for them to use that in a movie, it's like, oh my God, that's like a real thing happening. And they call it the Amici because it was Don Amici who played the part of the inventor of the telephone.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. So let's see. So where are we? So we're
so they get the upper hand on Pastrami with the portrait.
Pastrami.
And then they're in the van and they're doing like Chinese torture techniques, and it's like tickling and
with a feather of all things.
And then Potts is studying boxing. He's like, I'm gonna have to fight this guy. I know it's gonna happen.
Yeah, they're all taking the bull by the horn and doing what each one can to further the situation. Yeah,
it's a really it's a testament to the power of knowledge, basically, which is the whole thing that starts with these guys. Yeah, we don't know how the world works, but we know we can learn. We're fast learners, and we have all this knowledge, book knowledge that we can apply to real life situations, I guess. So a gangster
we know what to do. If you remember in the beginning of the movie, they knew what Nero was playing when Rome was burning. Right. I mean, they can tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. I also loved when she's, moments away from being Mrs. Joe Lilac, that, the priest is like, oh, do you take her? And she's like, yeah, whatever. Like, she's making like comments under her breath.
She's making bad comments.
I feel sick right now. And sickness and in hell. And just all that was great. Again, Barbara Stanwyck she's amazing. And then of course we get the little boxing match between the two of them.
Oh, and don't you love how Gary Cooper gets knocked down a couple times, but then when he hits back up and he clips him one good one, but then when he goes towards him, it's like a girly, like what I would call a girly fight, like over exaggerated with the arm swinging at him, and then he just dives on him on the ground, and you don't see it. And I thought that was so clever in how it was filmed that they didn't show it. Like they just show Gary Cooper, big, tall Gary Cooper. It was almost like a girl flailing his arms and then jumping on the ground on Dana Andrews. And then you see them, get him, yeah. And it's like it really harkened to me like, it was really bad, but like, a schoolyard fight, and kids are going, get up. Very funny. Very funny.
And then I think we get the jump in time a little bit to her now. I guess they're back at the place, at the mausoleum or whatever.
Mansion, whatever.
Trying to figure out, well, how's this going to work? Now, is she going to be part of the group? Like, what's the deal? And he ultimately takes the books and has her just stand on the books, and back to the yum situation, which I thought was super sweet. It's like the way that she came in and kind of changed all their lives and made them better. And, I love stories like that where you have all these characters from different sides and then they all kind of make each other better people. That's always really fun to watch.
Yes, exactly. And I noticed like right at the very end, she is still, not to go deep here, but she's still, she called herself a tramp in a previous scene.
Right.
But it's interesting to me how it was played, where she says, you don't want to marry, tell him, guys, you don't want to marry now you want to marry a dizzy dame like me. So she's still downing herself. She's still not forgiving herself. Obviously, he doesn't think nothing about her past, whatever. And so, he's accepting her with love, and she's still trying to hang on to her self-worth type stuff.
Right.
But then when he grabs her and kisses her, it's like, oh, okay, this is for real and it's forever. And then they all walk out and they do that signature little
the tongue click thing,
that thing that she
does. she calls them the squirrely cherubs one more time, which again was a really cute phrase.
Yeah. 7 squirrely cherubs. I want to keep you all. What did she say in an earlier scene? I want to wrap you all up and keep you with me forever, or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. It's really sweet. It's a really sweet ending, and it's a testament to the whole, how you can grow and in relationships, and how everybody has their own self journey and self acceptance, and I think that's her story, and his is kind of I guess in a way, I think Gary Cooper was like 40 when this movie came out. In a way, it's sort of a coming of age story for him in a way.
Yes.
And then for her, sort of sort of the opposite.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great.
He could have been not in this movie per se, but like he could have been 80 years old and been in a bookworm his whole life and been a professor and never got married, never had, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he could have, that could have been his life till the end of his life. But yeah, so yeah, it's and you know what else this movie says to me? There's somebody for everybody,
right?
You know, and I like feel-good movies. I do. And that's another reason I picked this one. But this one is just clever. It's funny. It's sweet. You know, the right people win in the end, whatever. And, you know, it's just a feel-good movie. Yeah. And it's very smart, very smartly written. Yeah.
I'm becoming between this and Christmas in Connecticut. I'm becoming a real Stanwyck fan now. I really need to go through her filmography and kind of hit all the high points.
Yeah, there's one film she did that I have never seen where she plays kind of a very dark character, and they play her against, I believe it's Fred McMurray from. I always think of My Three Sons when I think of him, but. You know, but she plays like a bad, like a femme fatale type of, and I've never watched that one because I don't know, I just never have. And then of course, many years later, she ends up playing the mom in the TV show, Big Valley.
Yeah.
It was a Western. Yeah. And that was where her daughter, a very young Linda Evans, was in that one. And, the Bionic Man, what's his name?
Oh yeah, I'm blanking too.
I started saying Steve Austin, but that's the character he played. Oh my God, my reality is getting mixed with my my fantasy imagination. I've lost it, Robert.
Let's see.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah, Lee Majors. Lee Majors played.
Lee Majors. Good
I knew
Lord,
I was like, because I could picture
Austin.
him. I was like, I couldn't remember his name either. No, but thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this movie to my attention. This is actually one that I don't even know if I had heard of before you mentioned it, let alone had watched. I feel like it's one of those that in the annals of classic film kind of gets probably lost in the shuffle in a way.
Yes.
And I think that's unfortunate because it's a really sweet movie and great performances by both of them. Like I said, Stanwyck in particular stood out to me, and apparently the Academy.
Yeah. Was A Quiet Place inspired by Signs, It Comes at Night, and War for the Planet of the Apes? Was Ready Player One influenced by Avatar, Wreck-It Ralph, and The Last Starfighter? Is The Hurricane Heist more influenced by Sharknado or Geostorm? These are the kinds of questions my guest co-hosts and I discuss on my podcast, Piecing It Together. Every week, we look at a new movie and try to figure out what other movies inspired it. Whether it's the story, the character development, tone, or even use of music. Every movie was influenced by something that came before it, and we want to figure out what. Check out Piecing It Together on your favorite podcast app or check us out on piecingpod.com. You can also follow us on social media at piecingpod. Piecing It Together is a part of the All Points West podcast network.
So, Laurie London, unless there's something else, can you tell people where they can find you on social media?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Robert. Well, I have two websites. One is Laurie London Entertainment, and that specifically is for Tripi the Fly. And then that is linked to my music website, Laurie London Music, because as you know, I've been a singer my whole life and songwriter and everything else. So those are linked if you are on the face of the page and go down. And also at the bottom of each website are all of the social media buttons where you can just tap on them and go directly to like my YouTube videos for Tripi, YouTube for the music, concerts I've done, so on and so forth. Tripi and I are also on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and, all of those. Facebook. Yes, please follow him on Facebook. He has lots of international friends on Facebook, so that's a fun site as well.
Great, perfect. Yeah, definitely. I mean, as for a traveling fly, that makes a lot of sense that he'd have sort of a global reach.
Yes. he has lots of friends in Cairo, Egypt, Sri Lanka. I mean, it kind of blows my mind when I look at their trajectory. Like, where is this all coming from? Because you're curious, right? It's like,
exactly.
Whoa, yeah. And he does go to Egypt, so hey,
nice.
Why not? Okay, yes, we love the Egyptian folks, and I have some coworkers, my regular job, that are from Egypt. And one lady, can I share this real quick?
Sure.
One lady says, she goes, well, I don't know. She says, we have a lot of flies in Egypt. And I said, you do? And she goes, yeah. And I said, well, we have them here too. We laughed, and she goes, maybe they think it's funny that a fly is manning his own aircraft, his own airplane, because on the front of the first book, that's what he's doing.
Right,
so
right.
I don't know, but I'm happy that people from all over the world are coming along for the ride, because that's what fun. We want to have some fun.
So yeah, no, thank you for bringing this one. This was a really fun movie to watch and therefore talk about. And absolutely we'll have you back at another point to talk about something else. Check in with Tripi.
Well, I've got one picked out already in my brain.
Ooh, do you want to drop a tease?
Bringing Up Baby.
I have not seen Bringing Up Baby. I know of Bringing Up Baby. I'm a terrible movie person because there's a lot of movies from back in the day that I still need to catch up with. I have a lot of blind spots, and now I have a toddler, so I don't have a a lot of time lately to fill in those blind spots. But this gives me a reason to do it.
And Philadelphia Story is another one. That's Katharine Hepburn. Okay. Those are both Hepburns.
Cool.
And they're both actually Cary Grant too. Wow. I didn't catch that. Okay. Yeah.
Well, Stanwyck and Cooper had just done something before this. Or really? I think I forget which one I saw it on in my research. But yeah, we'll definitely I'll make a note of that, and we'll definitely talk about that at some point soon. But Lori, thank you so much for coming back to the show. This was so much fun.
Robert, thank you, and I just love talking to you. You're a wonderful host, and again, I love your format. It's fun talking about movies, and this is really a great show, and I hope your audience enjoys this one as well. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, Lori. Best of luck with everything with Tripi, and keep us posted.
Thank you, Tripi. Yeah, he's a fun guy. Watch for him. He's going to be out there on TV land. I know it. All right. Thank you, Robert. You have a great day.
Thanks, Lori. You too.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
This has been a production of crookedtable.com. All rights reserved.
The art of a little KED.